quest to celebrate the unheard voices or uncelebrated writers. So we begin in right earnest. Any writer whom you personally feel deserves recognition, and why is that? And we'll start with the eighth person in the alphabetical order. Um, who's that? Darshini is ready.
Yes, sir, I'm ready. I'll share my screen,
Yeah.
sir. Sir, is my screen
Yes,
visible?
Darshini. But I think you can focus it a bit more. Ah, yes. Now it's visible. Good. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So when I was given this topic, I decided to speak about Hemant Sunim, an author who inspired me in the very recent times, but he is kind of popular. So I thought that I used to write poetry and random quotes. I don't want to acclaim that I'm a poet, but I used to write things what I feel. So I thought I would be the person I'm going to speak about today. So here are three random poems that I wrote. So I'll read them out for you. Then I'll speak about the book that inspired me very recently. So my first poem, it goes like, "Whomsoever you are, we never bother. Rather, we consider as your brother. You too will have a father, mother, and a daughter who'll mourn your death. What's there in stopping our breath? Blood for blood is not our policy, but you're the people with fallacy. What if we hit back? Imagine, what if we attack? Not a revenge, but brave people do avenge. Take my other son too, but leave them without a clue. To kill people lacking humanity, or to slap them back with hospitality." So I wrote this poem during the Pulwama attack, and here is the second poem. Uh, there is this lake in SRM which I used to admire whenever I used to go there. And during the course of time, especially in summers, the lake looked not very beautiful, but yet I admired it. So I got a lesson from that. So I wrote a poem regarding that. Something that I loved one day was not the same today. It changes time to time, season to season, yet I admire it. So are people, they change. The thing is that you have to accept their flaws and move on. This is something I follow, and that's why I wrote this poem. And this is the third thing. Uh, this is a bit personal, but I don't want to blame anyone. This is how our society is. So the title of the poem is May Marriage and Mind Your Own Business. So the poem goes like, sky turning grey, dad wants me to get married next May. Education is a way, I am not a prey, but he says it's next May. Don't shatter my dreams, I say. You'll need a place to stay. It's in May, he says. It hurts so deep, I'm not able to weep. He still says it's in May. I told him I want to make him proud, but he just needs that marriage crowd. Pampering me for 20 long years, to present me would be my deadliest fears. Mighty dreams, and gentle scream, but he it's fortune and wealth. Look at my poor health. It's in May, he says. Try adhering to the rules. Follow up the matrimonial tools. You fools, I'm just 21 with ambitions weighing 100 ton. So these are some of the poems that I like the most in my pen. So I've never read out my poems to people first time. So I feel that I'm not an unheard voice now. And in this,
Darshini,
so
your voice seems
my
to be breaking a
period
little
from
bit.
COVID, yeah, now,
Maybe you should
sir.
come maybe near the window or somewhere because your voice seems to be slightly breaking at places, slightly.
Yes, sir. Sir, are you
Yes,
able to
yes.
hear me now? Yes, sir. So the book I wanted to talk about is this book, which I read during my recovery period of COVID. So generally, I'm a person who used to spend time with my garden, and it was the only hope for me during this whole quarantine period. But after my COVID, there was this all colorful viruses emerging, and I was not allowed to go to my garden even. So I was in my room, and my close friend, she recommended me this book, and this book is written by Hemant Sunim. He's from South Korea. He's a very famous Zen Buddhist and a philosopher. So this book is totally about life philosophies that most of us would know, but the way it is put up in this book is very interesting. I'm not a person who used to complete a book in 2 or 3 days. I'm not of that type. I used to take long times, and I used to leave books in midways if I don't like it. But this book was really a game changer. It's actually a translated version, and this book contains very beautiful illustrations like this, which will never take your attention out of the book. So the book tells us how the life is moving very busy, and how you should tackle it, and a lot of things. The language is again very simple. It is a translated version. There are a little bit inconsistencies when it comes to the small translated, but again, the essence of the work is what everyone must know, sir. So I did not choose Hemant Sunim because he is a very popular writer, and more than 3 million copies of his books are sold. So that's it, sir.
Very good, Darshini. You have introduced us to a very new writer, Hemant Sunim. And as you rightly said, I'll be the person I'm going to speak of. That's a very good, vibrant perspective to celebrating oneself. This is exactly what a whole lot of writers have done. There is no better time to celebrate oneself than the now, than the present. So happy you came out. It's a revelation that you are a wonderful poet. And we also wish you many more laurels in the days and weeks and years to come. Especially the first one was so intense, put on the Pulwama attack. And the second one also, accepting their flaws and moving on, was beautiful. And the next one, don't shatter my dreams. The essence was amazing, good. Like, this is how we celebrate ourselves, right? Uh, in society, in community. I'm so happy for you. We wish you many more laurels the days and years to come, Darshini. All the best. Uh,
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
welcome. Yeah. We move on to the next person after Darshini is Durga. Is there? Durga, you may, followed by.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Durga, you may. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So, is my screen visible, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, sir. So, I would like to talk about the Indian author Asha Shankar Das, who is a children's writer. So, I'll begin with a little bit of background study of the author. So, Asha Shankar Das' family hailed from Rawalpindi in Punjab, which is now a part of Pakistan. They left their roots behind during the partition to make a new beginning in India. So she has written 4 books altogether. So here are the 4 books that I've mentioned. Champa, the Punjabi Kudi discovers the Himalayas. Champa, the dreamer, journeys to the land of the Buddha. Champa and her romance with the desert. And the final one, the twins discover the 6 seasons. 1. So the first 3 is a trilogy that I have read. So about the series, it's about a little girl, 9-year-old girl Champa, who lives with her extended family in the village of Chanderpur on the banks of a river in Punjab. So as the story goes, we can see that Champa is a bit of a dreamer who is obsessed with the idea of traveling to see the world beyond Chanderpur. So each series deals with how she manages to explore the different places in and across India. So for example, in the first series, she gets lost in the Baishakhi Mela. It's a popular Mela that happens 3 years once in the region of Punjab. She is later rescued by the Banjaras, popularly known as the nomadic tribes of India. So from then on, her travel begins. The way she explores with them, she goes to the northern part of India, and that's the story about. So moving on to the author's inspiration. So as a child, she spent most of her time with her grandparents in Himachal Pradesh, and also she says that she's very lucky to be exposed to these areas. So. As we all know, Himachal Pradesh covers the pilgrim towns of Haridwar, Rishikesh, Yamunotri, and Gangotri, and many other shrines such as Badrinath and Kedarnath. So, in all her books, we can say that she has used this area as the background of a story, and has also introduced the important melas of the rural Punjab and other popular festivals of this region. And today, she is the grandmother of sets of twins. And in an interview, she's also told that her books originated from the grandmother's role of being a storyteller, to keep her grandchildren engaged, entertained. Yeah. So, and my biggest takeaway from the book. So, I feel that her book, in some way, has inspired me to travel and explore the world. So for me, traveling, is all about meeting new people and learning about the different way of life, culture, food, and tradition. So I would like to conclude by saying that the traveling is the best form of education.
Very good, Durga.
Thank you,
You
sir.
put it so beautifully well. Asha Shankar Das is relatively new author to most of us, including me. She's a revelation, and especially the focus on the region in all the books that you said. She's used these areas, the melas and the festivals of her own region. And grandmother stories is a new genre, actually. Like Sudha Murthy also tells us about grandmother stories. Good, very good. And you signed off in a very beautiful note. Traveling is a way of life, and traveling is the best education that one could ever receive. Very good, Durga. We wish you more and more
Thank you,
travels
sir.
in years to come, right? As a part of education. Good. Yeah. Uh,
Thank you, sir.
we'll move on to Geetanjali. Geetanjali is there. Yeah.
Sir.
Followed by Harini.
Sir, is my
Yes, your
presentation
screen is visible, Geetanjali. Yes.
Yes, sir. So I'm going to talk about the Tamil Indian author C.S. Lakshmi, and she has a pen name of Ambai, and she was born in the year of 1944 in Coimbatore, and she graduated from MCC for a Bachelor's of Art and from Bangalore for a Master's, and she did a PhD in Jawaharlal Nehru University. Um and she is the only Tamil writer to have been included in the recently published Picada Book of Modern Indian Literature, edited by Amit Chaudhary. So next you will be saying about Ambai in detail. She is an Indian feminist writer and independent researcher in women's studies from India. She is called as the most distinguished fictional writer in Tamil. Uh, Her writings are like when she opens her mouth, she speaks her heart out like the characters in her fiction, and that is why she is really very distinguished and she has her own path. Her works are characterized by women in humor, that is like by feminism with an eye of detail and a sense of irony. And her style of writing is like touching reality that always challenges the tailored norms that are laid by the society for women. And she gives more real life representations, and and also like she defines I mean the society defines women like something that is pre-planned, like drawing column or cooking and keeping husband in a good humor. And this definition of ideal women is questioned by her characters in the fiction. Like the book, The Body Pose, Women, Violence and Survival talks like this. And her stories are always about relationships that have radiant characters present in the contemporary life and questions the norms that are laid for women, that is stereotypes. And next is about her works. Is Her first serious work of fiction was a Tamil novel named Andi Malai, which came out in the year of 1966, and it received the Kalaimagal Narayana Swami Iyer Prize also. And other works such as Siragugal Muriyum in 1967 and Veetin Moolayil Oru Samayalarai, this and all gave her a fame of reputed writers. And she was also awarded as the Lifetime Literary Achievement Award of Tamil Literary Garden in University of Toronto for the year of 2008. And what I got from all her novel was breaking rules is something, maybe something bad for the society, but breaking stereotypes that are laid for women is not going to cause any damage or deterioration to the
Very good,
society.
Gitanjali. Thank you for
Yes,
introducing this wonderful writer, C.S. Lakshmi Rambai, for us. Good. And as you rightly said, no, her style is to touch reality. That's a beautiful expression. To touch reality. Talk about the tailored norms laid by the society for women and breaking rules or rather breaking stereotypes. Good, very good. These are ways in which, yes,
thank you, sir.
yeah, I'm so happy for you. You know, the ways in which we celebrate regional writers, and she got the Lifetime Achievement Award also in September 2019. I was there at the Ooty Literary Fest with a few friends, where she was again honored with the Lifetime Literary Award, and I think Jerry Pinto was there, and there she spoke something straight from the heart, where she spoke about, I put down notes, so I'm just echoing whatever she said. She said, when I was 13, I was ashamed of my own body. As a kid I wasn't, but after I attained puberty, I was ashamed of my own body. And then later on, as I got married and as I entered middle age, I started looking at it from an aesthetic distance. And then my perspective towards my body changed. And she beautifully traces how she has evolved as a woman over the years. And these are writers, right? We need, like the previous, Darshini has also given us a wonderful writer, Hamin Sunin. Haven't heard of this writer also. She said, he's a game changer. Good. And Asha Shankardas also, very good writer. The way we celebrate the regional variants or the unheard voices in our own sweet ways. Beautiful. Yes, we'll move on to the next person. The next person would be Harini G, followed by Joan Swarna. And yeah, you may.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
I'll share
yes.
my screen now, sir. Sir,
Yes,
is my
yes.
screen visible?
It's visible.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So I recently happened to read about this aspiring regional writer, Selvi Subhasri. So I thought of why not celebrating this writer as we celebrate the voice of the unheard. She is an author of a Tamil poetry compilation called Nambikai Vidaigal, which is published in this year, which can be uh, called in English as Seeds of Hope. So this is the book I recently read, and I thought of sharing about it with you all. So I think she should be celebrated in a regional language. And she has also co-authored more than 7 anthologies. She has written many poetry snippets in anthological topics like Permanent Search, Nirandara Thedal, and Forgotten Stories to Tell, Solla Maranda Kadaigal, Idayathin Vaarthaigal, which can be translated as The Words of Heart, Sadhika Pirandaval, Born to Win. These are some of the poetry topics which she wrote in anthologies. So to talk about her, her lifetime ambition is to become a writer. One thing which interests me about her is that she's just our age, and though she's a student of physics, yet she developed a personal interest towards literature, and she started to write her thoughts. While reading her writings, I find her prime motives in life are truth, hope, and knowledge. And I'd like to share more about this one book, that is the Nambikai Vidaigal, which is a poetry compilation of around. It is just in 50 pages, so we can read in one sitting. We'll go on to the poetry collection. This is actually, to talk about this book, it is actually full of optimism. And I think all of us could derive a ray of hope from this book. As the title suggests, Nambikai in Vidaigal, that is the seeds of hope, these are very apt and useful in lifting us up in this time of uncertainty and despondency, which I personally really liked, and it was very inspiring and motivational to me. All of the poetry snippets and all of it are very inspiring. And to talk about the content of this book, it contains haiku, long poems, and some words of wisdom also. And one more thing I liked in her writing is that in whatever topics she writes, she never failed to insert a motivational thought in it. So whenever you feel low in spirit, or when we feel just to give up, it is when these seeds of hope do magic in our hearts. Like, it really lifts our soul. And also I really like the way in which it is written. There are many poetry snippets were there, so it also helps us to remember these powerful lines whenever we want to remember, and it helps us to keep us in mind always. And to talk about her style, she has used very similes, symbols, and imageries in her poems, which added extra flavor to her writing. And about the style, though she echoed lots of leaders and writers, her language is very simple, that a common man could even enjoy its aura. So she has discussed very lofty topics in life, and I wondered at some point when I was reading this book, like, because all these life lessons which are mentioned in this book are filled with wisdom, which shows her wide experiences even at a very young age. So in simplistic style, she focused on women, education, hard work, knowledge, and so on. So I think these poetry snippets, this would definitely inspire anyone who wants to succeed in life. It helped me personally a lot, and I want to share with you a few lines from her book, from The Seeds of Hope. The line goes like this. என் வாழ்வில் என்னை கவர்ந்த கூற்று, உழைக்கும் வயதில் உறங்கினால் பின் உறங்கும் வயதில் உழைக்க வேண்டும். I translated it on my own. It goes, a line that fascinated me in my life. If you rest at working age, then you have to work at resting age. I don't know whether this, the translation is fully right, but I think it is almost similar to the Tamil writing which she wrote. And the next lines for you. வெற்றி பாதை, இலக்கு இமயமலையா இருக்க இடையில் எத்தடை வந்தாலும் இறைவன் துணையால் வெல்லலாம். Which can be translated as the road to success. Even the goal seems unreachable, and whatever comes in the way, overcome with the help of God. So these are something that I want to share with you all, and I think these kind of young and aspiring regional writers should be celebrated as we celebrate the voice of the unheard. Thank you, sir.
Very good, Joan Swarna. So happy for you. You helped us get introduced to a new young budding writer, Selvi Shubhashri. Her seeds of hope. Although she's from physics, she loves literature, and her motive on truth, hope, and knowledge. Her haikus filled with optimism, wisdom, and the motivational thought in each poem gives magic in our life and really lifts us up. You have said, indeed, it really lifts us up, and your translation is very good. You can also try your hand at translations. at translating little small poems like these. In the long run, you will be a good translator, because with the world needs such great translators. Mini Krishnan with OUP, Oxford University Press, she says there is a great demand for good translators. Good, Joan. Thank you for helping us celebrate along with you a wonderful regional voice. And this is exactly what we do in the post-colonial studies class. Thank you, Joan.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we'll move on to the next person, Joan. Joan Melody, is there? Yes,
sir.
Joan.
Yes, sir.
You may.
So may I ask Bhuvaneshwari's help to
Oh
present
yes,
the
you may,
PPT?
please. Yeah.
I will be talking about a German writer, Robert Thier, and his series of novels called The Storm and Silence. This is a famous novel in the Wattpad world, but I don't think people know about this in the mainstream literature. So that's why I wanted to mention this book here today. Next slide, please. Bhuvaneshwari, please, next slide. Thank you. Shall I continue, sir? It's not visible.
Yes, you may. Yeah, it's partially visible. There seems to be some problem there. It's not at all a problem. Don't worry. You may go ahead.
I'm
No
doing
problem,
it again,
Bhuvaneshwari.
sir.
Yes,
So
yes,
sorry.
it happens. No problem. Yeah. Yes, it's visible. Perfect. Yeah.
Yes. He's a German historian, and according to one of his interviews, he loves to sit in the attic, read dusty old books. He loves history, so most of his novels are historical. It's full of satire and fantasy. And this 6-book series is a historical novel series, and with a little bit of romance in it. And the setting is in the Victorian era. And the main focus I want to focus on is the feminist protagonist called Lily Linton. According to me, I think she is the perfect feminist. I know it's asking a lot from the character, but I really do think she is a perfect feminist, and I will explain why. Next slide, please. Thank you. Previous slide. Yeah. Her name is Lily Linton. If I have to say a few words about her, I would say that she's a free, spirited, fiery feminist. She's an activist. She and her friends take boards to political conventions in the book to scream that we women need to vote as well. They will do this and run away when the police comes. She's just a 19-year-old girl aspiring to find her place in the world, and she hates the ideals of Victorian society placed upon a woman, and that's why she's basically a feminist. And the book introduced her to the readers in like this. She'll be seen as a girl who is 19-year-old girl who stole her uncle's old trousers and waistcoat, and she'll be walking down the street to go to the polling booth impersonating a man to cast a vote. This is her mission because she's 19, she's childish, and she does this. She goes there, successfully casts the vote without having turned anybody's heads. But in that excitement, instead of bowing like a gentleman, she will actually curtsy. And therefore, everybody will know who she is, and she'll be dragged out of the polling station. But in that moment, I thought a proper feminist, or if I were in the place, I will be really sad that my mission has gone down the drain. But then Lily there, she'll be actually reveling in the situation. She'll be enjoying the looks on the faces of all the men who are looking at her stupefied. They'll be horrified seeing a woman there wearing men's clothes. And this is the kind of feminist she is in the book. And she'll be jailed. and later in the jail she'll be demanding the police officer to punish her according to the law. But the policemen will actually feel very bad that a woman is in their cell, and they will force her out of the jail. They'll ask her to go home and be a proper good little girl. So this is Lily Linton's background. I do not want to give any more spoilers. She's very stubborn. She's very courageous, and somehow because of her character she'll manage to get a job as a personal private secretary to a business mogul in Britain, who's the richest man there in Britain. Now, if you ask me, why do I find this seemingly normal feminist character unique as compared to all the other feminist characters? Well, according to me personally, next slide, please. Female representation was either fully Victorian, where the woman is the angel of the house. She's considered weak, and she'll have to be taking care of the children. She'll have to take care of her husband, and she has to just focus on her dress and how she looks. And this is how women were represented then. But now feminism has come up, yes, and the starting was beautiful. Yes, women wanted voting rights, women wanted to study higher education. They wanted to be able wanted to represent themselves in the political area as well. That is why feminism came about. But according to me, I think feminism has taken a wrong branch nowadays. It's more of hyper feminism now. Women focus on superiority more than equality. Feminism has become a competition between men and women. So I personally never found a character which depicted actual feminism. It was either Victorian fully, or it was hyper feminism. So, so I never really understood feminism so much. But then when I read this book, and I was introduced to Lily Linton, I felt as if I found that midpoint, what I was looking for, a perfect example of feminism, because she's really strong. She's really courageous, really brave. She was able to walk through gunfire. She'll be able to go through a mountain alone, walk through a forest unattended. That's the great thing she'll be showing in the book. So when I thought a strong feminist girl like this, her character develops into a woman, where in the end of the 6th book, she will go up to the altar and say her wedding vows. And in her wedding vows, she'll say the word obey. And she'll say the word obey without having to let go of any of her feministic ideals. Even after marriage, she will call her husband the chauvinistic son of a bachelor. This is what she calls. So I found that maturity actual feminism, that I felt that is actual feminism. Feminism doesn't hurt somebody, or it doesn't pushes somebody down and takes their position. It is not at all about superiority. It was created to promote equality. And I think Lily Linton was a perfect example to depict that, to depict proper feminism. And this is why I think that this book deserves to be in the mainstream literature, especially for people who love to read feminist writing. For them, this will be a really useful book.
Very good job, Melody. You gave us a very interesting writer, historian. And most of us, I think, wouldn't have heard of Robert Thier. And the protagonist especially is a real revelation, a lovely revelation, Lily Linton, right? Why is she a perfect feminist? And you gave us very convincing explanations, like when she's asked, where are your manners? I left them in my purse at home. Or how she's free-spirited, a fiery feminist. And then she doesn't border on the excesses of what's called the Victorian ideals or into hyperfeminism. And as you rightly said, it is not about superiority, it's more about equality. Or it should not be competitive, or it should not be about competition, right? Because feminism doesn't have to hurt somebody. That is the ideal brand of feminism evinced through Lily Linton, the protagonist of Robert Thier. Very good, right? This is amazing. This is a revelation. So happy that you gave us these lovely expostulations on the protagonist Lilith in a revelation. Thank you, Joan. Oh, right.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Then the last one for the day, Jyotis. Joskuti is there? Yes, you may.
Yes,
Jyotis.
sir. So the writer I want to talk about today is T.A. Rajalakshmi. She is a Malayalam novelist, story writer, a short story writer, and a poet. And she was born in 1930. And her major novels are Oru Vadiyum Kore Nelugalum, Nyanana Bhavam, and Uchavelum Ilam Nilavam. And she have also written many poetry anthologies and short story anthologies. But in 1964, she actually wrote a story titled Suicide, and the next year she committed suicide. But the reason for her suicide is not actually known, but through her works, we can guess out that a major reason why she had to do it maybe due to the pressures of the patriarchal society. So when it comes to her writing, she mainly wrote about the life of women, especially about the innocent women of the patriarchal society whose voices were suppressed, and about the struggles of women in the domestic space as daughters and mothers and wives. And she wrote about how even women with financial freedom to work, even they were like weighed down by the family responsibility and societal expectations. This aspect is taken from her own life, because she was a physics professor at college, but then she faced so many problems. She had to give up on many of her dreams because of the societal expectations. So in her writing, you can see this autobiographical elements, which shows her mental agony and also the distress she experienced. And she also writes about heroines who have been influenced, who have been living under the influence of their father. Like, even in our society, there are many daughters who have to give up on their dreams because of the expectations of your parents or your father. So they'll have to give up on their individuality and redefine their dreams according to the expectation of people outside. So she gives about the gives characters who was actually influenced a lot by the pressures of parents and father and the patriarchal society. And she's also an example of a woman writer whose voice was suppressed by the patriarchal society, because one of her novels was being published in a weekly in parts, and all of a sudden she had to stop publishing it because her relatives said that she was writing about their life and making money out of it. So they blamed her and harassed her, saying that they were like making money out of their lives. And because of this, she went so distressed, and she burnt the manuscript of the novel that she was writing. And what makes her character special is the fact that they show resilience and resistance. Even amidst all the struggles of the society, they actually show this resistance. But ironically, she committed suicide. Even there are works which deals with death and suicide. So there's this character called Neeraja in her story Suicide. So she thinks that Neeraja thinks that it is actually better to walk to death than live as a dead person. So maybe there are people who say that this Neeraja is actually a reflection of the author, like Rajalakshmi, her life, her voice itself. And also she in her suicide note, she writes that she wrote that if I stay alive, I will continue writing stories. Wonder how many people I might be causing trouble. Hence, let me bid adieu. So this shows that one of the reasons why she had to commit suicide is because of the pressures she got from the society for writing stories, like because she was writing, because she was bringing out the problems of herself and other women in the society. So her writings have undertones and similarities to the writing of Kamala Das, but I think Kamala Das is more celebrated than she is. And also the fact that she was a recluse and her preoccupation with death and women's issues all shows there is actually strains in her writing, like, similarities with Sylvia Plath, Emily Dickinson, and Virginia Woolf. Thank you, sir.
Very good, Jyotis. You introduced us to a relatively new writer, T.A. Rajalakshmi. I'm so happy. The range of writers we have had today, right from Darshini as a budding young writer herself, along with Hanin Sunim and Asha Shankar Das, relatively new C.S. Lakshmi or Selvi Subhashri or Robert Thier or T.A. Rajalakshmi. Amazing. How many beautiful flowers are waiting to be heard, and we have, in our own sweet ways, in this POCO classes, we have celebrated these voices, and I'm sure these voices will also resonate across, right,